Meeting come to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Dave.
Mr. Nepal. Mr. Nixon.
Here.
Mr. Dees.
Here.
Mr. Henry Nottleline. Here. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Tom Nottleline.
Here.
And Mr. Nico.
We have a quorum. Approval of February checks 14726 through 14810 from the general fund account and checks 1940 through 1941 from the store account. Do I have a motion to approve those checks?
I'll make a motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Now, discussion on anything that's on here. Some of these are paid, and like we agreed to in January, most of the checks from 14760 all the way through to 148110, most of them are waiting for approval from council to be mailed out. Now on check 14740, that's the payment to Bean for the snow removal, which we hope to get some of that money back from the emergency, snow emergency from the state, federal government.
I have a question on the conference, Mr. Lewis. Annual conference. Was that already paid by Mr. Lewis?
Which one? What check number?
I'm sorry, it's check number 14808.
I guess that would be the conference in June, I would think.
That's correct. Was that already paid?
No, it has not been paid. It's paid. The check is payable to PSAB.
Okay. So, what you're asking is to go to the conference. You haven't paid this out of pocket yet.
That's correct.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were paying it, you were looking for reimbursement.
You have questions on T&M, the past engineers? I thought we had a discussion with the solicitor about the grant writing and the money we were charged. And what was the situation on
We did. There was a letter written to T&M based on council's direction as to outstanding bills. You may recall we received some bills from 2013, and it was unclear as to why we were receiving them. I wrote a letter asking for some explanation. I never received a response. But since that point, I know there's been further discussion, not through my office, but further discussion between the borough and T&M. One of the reasons being that there was a need to sort of wrap up the end of the year items. Those were not done by me.
Okay, I've been in contact with Tim from T&M. And the letter, everybody, I believe, had a copy January 19th. That's when T&M sent us a letter stating that they are 95% complete of the ADA curb ramp. That was a grant. And also Chapter 94, which is a sewer report that's due the end of this week, is 80% complete. And they've also been asking for payment of 2 invoices. One from 8/22 of 2013 for $2,117.04, and an invoice from September 20th of 2013 totaling $572.15. Now, I called Tim on this, and they were told to put a hold on everything because it had been turned over to the legal department. And that's from the letter that was sent. However, we need to get these reports in. They're very important, and the deadline's Friday. And researched these invoices he's asking about. The 2,100, we couldn't find anything in our records. I mean, it's gone. We show no proof of payment of it, so he sent a copy of it to us. The other invoice, the 572.15, we traced it, we found the invoice, we found the check that was cut to pay that bill. It was in the minutes that you approved it. It got sent, it never got there. We checked the bank statement, it never got cashed. So that's lost somewhere. So we did approve to pay it, but they never got the check. So one of the recommendations I have is to reissue a check for that. If you want to go a little deeper with that, I'll be talking to you maybe at the next meeting about some of the accounting that was going on back then. Never picked up that that check never got cashed. So we had no indication that they never got it. Since then, and I asked him, the Chapter 94 report is due Friday, and it's a pretty good report, it's big. And it takes engineering companies to complete it. We have to give them some data, but not most of it. They have everything there. I've already talked to Barry Isett, and they said, well, they could do it, but it's going to take a little time. And I'd have to run down to the sewer plant and get records from 2014, because our records don't have it. Our record room stops in 2013. But we need the 14 report to carry on to the 15 report. They have it down at the sewer. They can't send it, it's not on a PDF file, so they only have it on hard copy. I have to go down and get copies to give Barry Isett. Since then, Tim sent us a list from their main office of other invoices that haven't been paid. So these two plus 10 more haven't been paid. Now, in all honesty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them were just in the last December and January. Transitional wrapping up stuff. They're small. They're not very large. One of them came in misapplied to the wrong project. Had him check on it, and he said it was an error and that he would correct it. They billed it to the right. It wasn't billed to the right fund. Basically, grand total that's owed T&M, $6,488.62. He said that if we can come to the agreement and we can pay our past due bills, he would be more than happy to complete everything by the deadline on Friday. If not, we're going to have to go to Barry Isett. We're going to have to ask for an extension. And the trouble with the Chapter 94 report is DEP requires the sewer authority to have it in by the end of March. Sewer authority is asking all municipalities to have it done by the end of February so that they can have a month to put all that together for their final report. Ryan from Barry Isett said they'll give you a little leeway because they have a lot of work to do anyway, but they don't give much. We're talking days. So I think it's on the agenda for the solicitor's report or possible executive session. Since we've already sent a legal letter to them and it's already in their legal department down in, I think it's Middleton, New Jersey. I don't know if you want to talk about it at the meeting. But right now we have to make a decision. We looked at these bills and they're for legitimate purposes.
We can't get an extension on the ADA?
On the ADA, I asked him that, Hank, and I said, the biggest problem with the ADA, the only thing left that they have to do is double check the punch list. They already did the punch list, the contractor already went out and did what he thought was the punch list. They haven't come back and checked it.
I understand that, I don't understand why back in 2013, we owed them money, and they didn't chase us down for that money and let it go.
They did.
And you know, now we owe $6,000, Did they give us a break off of the 50,000 we lost from the county? Because one of their employees weren't allowed to fill out the paperwork?
Well, that's the issue that's gotta be discussed, Hank, but he has a whole record of how many times he called about these bills. And all the way back in 13.
Yeah, I feel.
And, you know, I asked the same thing, you know, why haven't we gotten statements before that? He said he doesn't, Jersey does all the billing, they just give him a report that it's not paid, and then he has to call the customer. He's the manager of the local office, he's responsible to collect. He said on some of them, especially that one bill for 2,100, he has notations 8 times he talked to Kelly about that thing.
How come that bill's not in the office? I have 2 questions, that's one of them.
Well, that was a bill that he had sent because we couldn't find it.
Do you remember what it was for?
I think it was ADA.
That was the ADA, okay.
For executive session?
The 6,000, Pete,
60,
the 6,000, does that include the one that we're discussing about the bill for the grant? Does that 6,000 include that?
I don't think it would be because the way I understand it was paid.
We already paid that.
And are we saying any of those, of the 6,000, are there challengeable, any of them?
No, the more current ones, we have a reason to pay them. I mean, it was worth it
Well,
before.
then, why don't we expedite it on his word and say, he said he would do the report if we pay the bill for those 6,000? And then just fight over the others as they come down the line.
Well, there's nothing else to fight over. The only thing that would be questionable is the grant, when we didn't get the grant. And that bill was around, my recollection off the top of my head was around $1,000. That was a bill that West Easton paid previously, before 2016. So theoretically, we could pay all these bills, get the reports done, and then talk about the $1,000 bill. But in reality, you know, we're at a practical standpoint where we owe them a significant amount of money. They have to finish the work. And I think Pete has accurately depicted the problem and position we're in, is we gotta get these reports done. Because if we go somewhere with Barry Isaac, that's fine, but they're still gonna come after us for 6,000, which we may be able to get down to 5,000, but then we're gonna have to pay Barry Isaac,
Right.
and that might be more than 1,000, probably will be more than 1,000. Then we're gonna run into separate problems with delays and everything else. I don't like it, none of us like it, but here's where we are.
Well, I think that he would, giving it to Isaac right at this point in time with new feet in the block, I think we'd be better off letting T&M do it and get it over with.
And then go after the grant writing
Yeah.
that we feel as though they owe us that back.
Right now, I've opened up the communications. And at first time, when I first called him, he couldn't give me much of anything because it was blocked. Everything it's in illegal hands. I called him back again with a question on a bill instead of just what's going on. It broke the ice a little bit, and he'd been sending things, and I've been checking with Dave on past invoices to make sure that we didn't pay him. And right now, at this point, he's outstanding bills at 64. And it's nice that he offered he will finish, instead of just throwing it over to Barry Isaac. So I don't think he's not really trying to burn any bridge. I mean, he's willing to finish up the work that he started. I think we have 2 different issues here, like Steve was saying, and Danny. I think we ought to get over this hurdle first. We got very crucial deadlines to be Friday. And he said that if we can get these checks to him, like, stat, I would run him up there tomorrow. He can have that report for me by Friday. Both of them, actually. It's closing, the finish on the ADA, that 5% he has to finish. I asked him, if we don't finish the report we have now, will that exclude us from the next one? Will they let it overlap, the fact that we didn't close it? Hank, this is answering your question. He said he doesn't ever remember somebody not getting a second grant because they didn't close out the first. So, yes, there is a little bit of room on that first issue of the ADA, but if they're at 5% and he's willing to finish it right away, and we can move on with the next one with Barry Isaac.
The only other question I have is check 14801. We had to buy another borough seal because we had one and nobody can find it. Is that the idea, Dave?
Yeah.
Did we make any decision on this, or are we gonna talk about it in executive session?
No, I
Pay
think,
those bills.
I think we can make a vote on this.
Okay.
If there's any other questions?
Yeah, 14809, is Chrissy Shopman done with you, Steve? Are you guys all caught up, or is there another bill that be coming?
I have everything I need from her.
Okay, so she's complete?
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, I'll tell you that at some point in the last couple of weeks, we met. She was very cooperative, provided all sorts of documentation to me and so on. But, you know, she said she's available if necessary, but I don't believe there's going to be a future need, but she was very agreeable through the process, very professional through it.
Okay. At the end, back to 14808, there's a policy in place to apply to go to a conference, and we haven't decided who's going yet. I mean, not everybody on this council is going to the conference.
Yeah, the travel policy you're talking about?
Yeah, travel policy, because is there going to be a room involved?
Well,
And for what, who's going?
Well, let's put it this way, that check is not due, we can hold back on sending that check because that's not due until May 5th. So we can have a discussion on who's going, and voting delegate, and all that in our next meeting, because
All right, so you want to approve the check?
prove it, but hold it back until March
Okay.
14th. See who else wants to go, fill out the policy, travel policy, in writing. You don't have to do it right now. Any other questions on that, Matt?
Nope.
All in favor?
No, I have a couple questions here on that. Okay, check number 14726, Taylor's Plumbing. I got a bill here for $759, then at the bottom it's $1176. Where's his labor at on this? Did we pay this already?
It's second, that should be this, there should be 2 pages with that.
I only have one, what I found.
I think the total
Yeah.
labor and parts is the one.
Yeah.
And apparently nobody bid it on, came from council to have these put in.
Yeah, we discussed that last council meeting.
Yeah, but they were put in before it was installed. And,
Yeah, that was the council meeting you missed. We went through this, we talked to Henry,
yeah,
and that kind of error is not gonna happen again.
well, my question is, how come we didn't have Dane put the toilets in? It's only a matter of 2 bolts and putting the flanges on.
It was a little bit.
No rocket science.
This Dave's not a plumber.
Hey,
Dave's not a plumber.
hey,
Right, hold on.
I'm talking now.
I'm talking.
Henry.
Yeah? Now, that's what I wanna know. How come he didn't put it in? He done other work.
Because he put in spigots, drilled holes for guard, handrails, and he did everything at his cost plus labor.
Well, I like to see his labor down here. I don't have
It
a
is
copy
down
of
there.
it.
David's getting a copy for you, Tom, right now. He's making a copy.
And, all right, we'll go to the next one. Right below it, 14727, Collis Truck Repair, rear axle, $1,500. What happened to that?
Rear end went out.
And who was driving the truck?
Dane.
Dave was driving the 2306? How did he do it? Because somebody was riding through West Easton with the 2306 and they were going like a madman. They just got hit the Sunflower Lady's car that day.
I don't think they'll make the rear axle with that.
I don't think the rear axle was going a little bit fast.
It wasn't a heavy snow.
That was 32
That was a
inches.
blizzard.
That was blizzard. Hey, I was plowing with a half-ton pickup truck going through 4 feet drift.
Here's a
And
minute.
nothing happened to
You
it.
are the plowman.
It was breakdown of all equipment, and I'll tell you what, if they would have taken it to a shop, it would have cost over $5,000 to fix it.
And my concern, nobody was watching. Because I'll tell you what, they were driving too fast, they didn't have to try to push, they just had to keep streets open until the snow stopped, then push it back. And it wasn't a heavy snow. All right? My other question is, all right, let me see where we're here. Being snow removal. All right? Is this policy, and here you go, Dan, take a look at it. That's Fifth Street, that's only one, I got a mess of them. For being to clean the whole Fifth Street there,
Yeah, that's Fifth Street.
yeah,
Is that Fifth Street? What about it?
I wanna know who authorized that street to be cleaned. The residents didn't get their streets cleaned like that.
Sure is,
What?
sure is Fifth Street.
The whole block of Fifth Street. Do you do the whole block?
Why don't you go up to Second Street?
Bean didn't do that.
Bean didn't do it. Who was
No.
down there with the loader then?
Look, Tom, you're just here to pick a fight.
I'm not here to pick a fight. I wanna know.
Dane cleared that with his backhoe.
This is the best year we had for snow removal
They cleared
in a long
that
time,
whole
Tom.
street off, and they didn't.
We're the over the same night. You wanna talk about something, let's talk about the new truck we bought, it's a piece of shit.
What's wrong with it?
You know?
I haven't used it all year,
Why not?
because it's a piece of junk, that's why.
I don't think so.
Well, where is it?
Then, where is it? And it's right. That's why I like to know what happened to that
It
one.
went to Key Pontiac and then it went to Phillipsburg to get fixed 2 times and it's still not usable.
Hey.
Because the plow's no good, the spreader's no good, the body wasn't put on right. It's only a 3,500 truck. What are you talking about?
You know what? You guys are in a lot of trouble. As far as
We're in
I'm
trouble.
concerned.
We're in trouble.
We're gonna talk about you taking the stuff out of here
Yeah, we're
tonight.
talking about you on a surveillance camera, buddy.
You're in trouble.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey,
Solicitor,
guys, can we get that
Solicitor,
straight?
Sister, you got a question?
are you gonna have me arrested? You gonna take me up in front of the others? Make your mind up right now.
Together wouldn't go together. It would go to what? A party that's...
Want an answer right now.
I'll try to be nice about that. I know what you're asking in the sense of, you know the answer. You think somebody's got, you think I have the arrest
Yeah.
power to put, let me finish.
I'd like to go into executive session for 1 second right now.
No, you ask me a question, you want me to answer it, or you want to just?
I want an answer.
All right. Your question is, am I going to put you in handcuffs and arrest you right now? The answer is no. You know that and I know that.
Right,
You know that I'm the solicitor for the borough. And
Right.
I know that I'm not the police. So the answer to your question, sir,
yes,
is no, I'm not going to.
right.
If the council decides to take action, that's up to council, and then appropriate steps get taken.
Well,
That's the
then
answer to your
then
question.
I'd like to have an answer right now from council.
Well, that's gonna go into executive session, Tom, I can't give you an answer.
Yeah.
Well, let's go right into the executive session right now.
I'm not seconding the motion.
I didn't make a motion. Anything we have to talk about is going to be talked about right now.
Yeah, we're still talking about bills,
We're
aren't we?
still talking about bills. I want, anybody else have questions on the bills? I think Bean did their job and they did it for a good price. And we'll probably get $8,000 back for what they did. So, any other questions on the bills? I had a motion, I had a second. All in favor?
Alright.
Opposed?
No,
Take note of that.
Dan, do you need to make an exception to the motion, because I think you don't want.
Oh, yeah, with the exception of holding back, check
14808.
14808 until after March 14th meeting. Because we have a lot of time to hand that in and get written, travel with totals. Unpaid bills, we took care of P&M. Assad. Oh, the sewer fund was also 2 checks, I forgot about that. 2 checks for the sewer fund, 1940 and 1941. I have a motion to approve those.
Make the motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Alright.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Unpaid bills, T&M was taken care of. Assad was in here the other day. I don't have that bill in front of me. We can go into that when we come to office report.
Okay.
We have a guest tonight, Richard.
My name is Richard Haddock from Easy Micro Solutions, and I just want to apologize for not making your last meeting. I know I was on your agenda, and I had put the wrong day of my calendar. It was my mistake.
You have a presentation?
I wasn't sure if you wanted to do it later on.
No, that's okay, you can do it now.
Okay, I had given you two quotes. The first one was for our management option. I want to start with that because that's really the basis of our operations and what we do as a company. We're what's called a managed services provider, which means we actually act as an IT department for our customers. So our customers, which are public and private and nonprofit, they look at us as doing everything that a typical company's IT department would be, such as taking care of the computers, the servers, the security, the network security, both on-site and then also from the internet, making sure that you have an on-site backup, making sure that you have a disaster recovery plan in place for your data. I always have to emphasize for your data because the disaster recovery plan that we design and implement for you is only a portion of your disaster recovery plan because we're only looking at your data. Obviously, there's a lot of other activities that go on that you would have to worry about if there would be disaster. On this sheet here, the one that's colorful, if you look down the middle column, those are the services that we're quoting along with our management. So I'm not going to go listing down, all through here, but what we really do is we take care of everything in the network and then also technology related as well. When I say technology related, I'm talking about vendors like your telecommunications, your internet service provider, your copier, your printer provider, the software that especially the software that you just purchased last year to run the borough. We work with all those vendors. We're not going to be experts. We're not going to be the ones that are printing fixing the printers, but we're going to be the ones that are working with those vendors on your behalf, from a technology professional to technology professional. What we find is, I'm sure what you find a lot in your personal life, a lot of times when you're shopping for services, a lot of times you'll get the whole kitchen, they won't quote you the whole kitchen sink. We don't do that. We really try to look at what services are needed for our customers and try to stick with our core principles. We're not a provider that's everything for everybody. We have a very small niche market, and it's for organizations that value technology. They're looking at using the technology to help them operate, and they're looking at saving costs related to technology-related investments. And the biggest cost is the opportunity cost of your technology investments. If you're not able to utilize what you're purchasing, and you're not able to take that software and be able to run the borough and get a return on it, there's no sense buying the software. You'd be better off doing paper. So you need to have a partner, or somebody internally that's able to partner with you, and make sure that the borough's getting the most out of their technology investment dollar, and that the people have someone to turn to when there's any type of technology needs. That's where we come in. You have any questions on the management side of it?
What's the timing on keeping the computers updated? Do you have a schedule that you review?
We actually, for updates, which covers the Microsoft updates, your antivirus, your malware, all of that stuff is run on a schedule. All of that stuff happens after hours, usually after 10 p.m. It depends on, and then something else that goes along where is your off-site backup, your disaster recovery portion. One of the things that's dependent for that to take place effectively is that you have to have a decent internet connection coming in here for the upload speeds. But you have the speeds available to you right now.
You said they're available now, but you don't know what our speeds are?
I don't know what your exact speed is, but we didn't see any issues with your internet connection here. You're very fortunate compared to many organizations. And that you have a variety of options available here as well. Some organizations are still in the monopoly areas where you only have one provider to pick from and there is no other option.
as far as the equipment goes? You recommend that we get this kind of equipment here,
Um,
or purchase this kind of equipment?
Before we go to that, is there any other questions on the management quote? And, you know, that, and the price for that $750.
No, I have a question that has to do with
Okay. One last thing for the management quote, out of that $750 monthly charge, $279 is for the on-site and off-site backup disaster recovery solution. It is a pricier solution, but what that does is for your on-site server that'll be here, the backup appliance actually acts as a standby server. So if anything would ever happen to your main server, let's say you had corruption, or just a power surge is probably one of the most common forms of, common causes of corruption. Let's say you would have a blackout or a brownout that would cause damage to the drives, and you would get corruption. If you have multiple drives on that server, which most do, what happens, a lot of times people think they're safe because of multiple drives. That just copies the corruption from one drive to the other instantaneously. By having an on-site backup solution that actually acts as a standby server, if you would ever have a failure here, or a problem like that where your server was completely down and we weren't able to bring you up without substantial time or ordering parts for it, we could actually bring your server up and running on the standby server. It's through virtualization technology where we can basically take the image of your server. It's going to be on your backup appliance, and that the backup appliance actually is another server, so it can run as your main server that needs to be worked on. That's really what makes that solution a little bit more pricey.
And you notice that our server is a mirrored server?
Correct.
Similar to what you were saying, there's 2 hard drives in there.
Correct. But
If we have a surge through one, it's going to take up both that many.
well, that was actually that first example I gave you.
Yeah.
If you have a problem in one, it's automatically in the other.
And that's what we have.
But if you're doing an image-based backup, let's say your failure was a week ago, that there was some corrupted data, because you don't always find corrupted data right away. Sometimes it's months. And what you can do, because we keep a year's worth of history, you can go back to any time and pull where that corrupted file is, fix it, and then move ahead. You could either do it by individual file or taking the entire system back to a previous time.
And that would be included in your 750?
Correct. But the most important part of that is if there is a disaster, if there's hardware failure, theft, flood, I don't think the river water gets up this far, but if a disaster like that happens, because your data is going off-site every night, we could actually, in the case of a disaster, we could virtualize your stuff in the cloud. You'd be able to access your systems, get whatever you need to done. You need to contact an emergency contact. You need to run payroll, do that type of stuff. You could do that in the cloud. And then we would basically back it up after you got done doing what you were needed to be doing, and then send a replacement backup appliance here that would have got destroyed by whatever means.
Is there any training hours involved in what you do?
That's the good part. You have unlimited hours with us. We don't really do training so much as formal Microsoft Office training. But anytime that you ever have an issue with us, for example, let's say you would have a problem with Word, it's not printing right or something like that. Because about 93% of our work is done remotely. The person that's there sees everything that our engineers are doing. So they actually learn from, so if they're making a common mistake and they see our engineer fixing it, a lot of times they see what they're doing and, they're able to correct it from there. But, we really focus on the operations. Obviously there's only there's 3 PCs here. So your operations aren't that extensive from like a documentation standpoint, but there's a lot that goes on here. I did in this is the beginning of the meeting and I've heard quite a bit. There's a lot of activity. It doesn't mean, because you have 3 PCs, you're still getting a server with software that can support a much, much bigger organization. And, it really wasn't designed for just a small borough. It's designed for government entities. And really to get the most dollar out of that, you need someone that's going to be able to partner with you and walk you through and represent you. And that's what we do.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't know you were done.
No, that's key. And getting the system up and running, and that I like the remote situation, because I was familiar with that kind of area I worked in my work life. So, yeah, that's key. So it sounds like you have a pretty strong background situation in a lot of different areas.
Well, we've been in business since 1992. I've been with the company for almost 11 years now. And I've seen a lot, we're not going anywhere, and, we work really, really hard to, to satisfy our customers, to develop new technology, and to stay on top of, what's there on behalf of our clients. It's definitely a lot of work in this field.
Any question, Matt?
Yeah, the on-site support. Okay, so this plan you showed us here for support doesn't include a guy coming from Easy Micro down.
Correct.
But if we had our IT guy talking to you on the phone, that is covered.
Well,
Like if you walked him through a problem.
I'm not sure who you're right, because a lot of times, either we're your IT department, or if you have somebody here already that you kind of want as being your eyes and hands, I can't see many situations where you would really choose that, just because, like I said, about 90, it's a little over 90% of our work is done remote. And if we would have to come on site, it's really only for the case of hardware failure. Your internet connection goes down, maybe a problem with your backup, the backup appliance. And even what a lot of our clients do, because the most common problem is with a PC. If you take your PC to our office, we include it in the plan. If we can't remote into it and fix it, if somebody drives it up to our office and drops it off, we include it in your plan. There's no extra charge. But if we would have to come out here, it would be $105 an hour for that charge. And I guarantee you, myself and the rest of our staff would, we do our best to avoid it.
Well, I heard the word training. I don't want to mix apples and oranges here, but Dallas, that's doing the new software, they're the ones supposed to do training, aren't they?
Yeah. On the software, now what we're just talking about is anything that
Well,
would
that's why I wanted
yeah.
to get clear to everybody.
Yeah, that's a part of that agreement with Dallas.
You're familiar with Dallas?
I'm not personally, but I know our engineers are.
Well, you looked at our equipment, I know, and you don't feel that server is up to speed for what we need?
No, it's between 5 and 6 years old now. Typical lifespan of a server is between 5 and 6 years old. Is it possible for us to upgrade it and it's possible, but it would not be worthwhile financially, because you'd be putting a lot of money into at least $2,000 to $3,000 for a server that's not going to last you very much longer. A server is not like a car. It's not like you can, kind of take care of the car and keep the mileage low. The age really does have a lot to do with it because of Moore's law. Basically how technology grows and the speed of processing grows every year.
Let me ask you this last question. Is one based on the other? Like if we got your support plan, you have to get your equipment?
Actually, you do not have to get the equipment, but the quotes were together initially. The reason that they were separated was so we could give a lease option. So I separated the hardware and the software and the labor of the project from the monthly management fees for you.
Okay, so here's the lease option here, 36-month lease. So 36 monthly payments of $438, right?
Correct.
Plus the $750.
Correct.
Well, we can take this under advisement, but I got the big question. Why are we even going here? This was all taken care of last year, wasn't it?
He doesn't know.
Well, we paid for it. I mean, I voted against that list where everything was supposed to be bought, new software, new computers, all this and all that, and it was all taken care of last year. Why are we going through this again?
Dan,
No, I'm asking council.
Well, it's 22,000.
I mean, you guys voted on buying new software, buying computers, have the sod, everything was taken care of, we walked in with computers, We went through this, now we have to go through it again? We'll have to look at this and then we'll, like I said, take it under advisement.
Yeah, you can be after tonight on approval.
That's, you can take, like I said, we're not going anywhere, and I'm in no rush, and I'm actually more concerned about your needs at this point, you know, based on the little history.
What is the problem that we have at the server?
Go ahead.
Because you tell me, you know, I
I
got
just,
it from a lot of different areas.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was okay to move on from the management quote, and to move over to the hardware, software later. For the first item, that is basically just a server. It is not, you know, it's not a top grade enterprise server. It's not a PC type server, which is what the borough has right now. The hardware that the borough has right now is essentially, it's Dell's version of their lowest cost server, which is really on a PC chassis. It has a server operating system and some server components in it, but it is really designed for a very small organization with extremely limited needs. To make the current server, even when it was brand new, meet the requirements of the Dallas software, it would have been a stretch. You would have been really recommended to go to the next level up, which is really where this server lies.
Isn't that server out there a 16 GB? The one that's out here now?
I don't have my notes for your existing equipment with me.
Then how can you say it's not big enough?
Well, because it didn't meet the requirements of Dallas. You know, we did go over the specifications for, you know, for your software.
We gotta get that cleared out, because I talked to the vice president at Dallas, and he told me that computer couldn't handle the system, okay? And I just had a conversation a week ago with him, because I keep hearing all kinds of things now. You're bringing a lot of stuff together tonight. That's good. That's what we should have, somebody with expertise to talk to us, because in this room, quite frankly, there's no expertise. And that's probably what happened in the last room, the last council. There was no enough expertise to make the right judgments.
Well, here's a judgment. Dave, what happened? Why do we have that server that's in there now? It's supposed to be a server that was okay to buy.
What I was told yesterday, we had our gentleman that's been helping us out with IT and our former IT person here yesterday, and I was told that the unit that we have in there as a server, right now, the operating system is corrupt, and probably what has happened is that somebody unplugged it while it was turned on, and it's a refurbished computer. It's not brand new, it's refurbished, and according to our former IT person, that's what was purchased by the borough to save money.
Well, we'll go into that executive session on who unplugged the computer, because the VP at Dallas told me exactly who unplugged it.
I want to make one more note.
That was only one person in the office, Gary. What are you talking about?
Dave?
One of the things that's on this quote here, if you look at it's the fourth item down, the APC Smart UPS 1500 battery backup. That's really what the server that you have now needs, and what the new server, you know, that I'm quoting would need. The power supply that that's hooked into, I mean, obviously it doesn't matter what UPS that you would buy, anybody can pull the plug out of it. But that is one of the concerns that we had, is that the server's plugged into a PC power supply. But I mean, as far as you had mentioned before, that will your current server run the software, the Dallas software? It'll run it. It's just not going to run it very well, you know, and especially not for very long. It would be equivalent to getting a 1977 Ford Pinto that had a 6-cylinder in it and sticking a 429 in it. You can do it, but it's not advisable.
Well, that's why I asked, because I haven't heard a clear cut answer to that. Getting from the horse's mouth to the technical ability, I think that's the way you gotta get your answers.
But our two main concerns when we did your evaluation are both your backup, you know, the on-site backup and the disaster recovery backup. and then also the security of the network here itself. And then the last section is the labor, and that's just what it will take to put it all together for you. You know, to bring the firewall in here, to bring the new server, have it configured, have a true domain configured here, set rights and policies for the users that are on the network. For example, part of the Windows Server is what's called Active Directory and Group Policy. Group policy is very strong in order to give certain individuals rights and privileges that are associated with their position, and also can restrict access to programs and files, you know, if they should not have access to them. You know, so that's something, again, that we work with you initially to set up, you know, to find out who needs access to what, and lock down the things that you don't want to be accessed by other people. I mean, I guess most of your information here is public record, so I guess that, but I mean, not your payroll, not your human resources, not some of those things.
Actually, people are allowed to know what it paid.
Mr. Paul, can I ask a question?
Get back.
You said, how old did you say our server is here? You
It's
said-
between 5 and 6 years old.
Okay, typically you can't get a warranty much longer than 3 years on a server or something like that.
There is-
Larger companies go and are on a 4 or 5 year replacement anyway. Is that the way most of your clients are?
And most of them, I would like them to be between 4 and 5. I would say most are between 5 and 6. Some actually push it.
What if it was upgraded, that one there?
Well, it's kind of, it would be that Pinto analogy that I gave you, you know, because it is so old, you know, you're not gonna switch out your power supply and the processor, and then once you start getting into that type of stuff, it's just, the expenses are gonna be much more than this.
Any other questions?
No, I don't want to get started.
To your question, no, there is no warranty on that machine.
There's no warranty on the server? On a new machine?
On this,
New
yes,
machine.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
It comes with a 3-year warranty, and they'll have the option to renew it for year 4 and year 5. We would recommend that. Are there any other questions?
Thanks for that information. You should have been here a year ago.
I wish we would have been. Yeah, I really wish we would have been, because it would be a lot less painful.
Any public to be heard? And just to let everybody know, the mic phone that was here is now fixed.
It's not working.
Yes.
Paul James, 1019 Iron Street. I just came to the meeting because you guys had advertised something about a block watch or something like that, and I just like, something I regretted when I was on house, but I'd like to just throw my name in that I'd like to get involved with that. You advertised a block watch or a neighborhood watch or something like that?
Yes.
I'd like to get involved
Okay.
in that, so.
Uh,
And I know that hasn't come up yet for your committees or whatever, but that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, you got my number.
I probably do. I'll get it from you.
I would say when the weather breaks, springtime, hopefully we can get some more people interested. And thanks for your name. Mayor's report. One more? Sandy?
One thing is, I'd like to know what's going on with the police, and are you doing anything? Are we going to have a police officer? Are we joining in with somebody? That's first. Maybe any insight on what you're...
I can tell you that I am talking with Wilson Borough. They're still distant on the subject, but they have a new council, and they're taking their time, and so they won't jump in and get the people that they think they can get support. They're not going to jump in real quick. I just communicated with them again about a week and a half ago. that would be the only potential police situation that we may have in the future. And I think it's a good one. It would be even better, and this is talking pie in the sky, but regionalization of a situation between Wilson, Williams, West Easton, and Glendon would, I think, would make it more economical for everybody. We touched on that, but that's something I'm more interested in what we can do for the West Easton Borough right now, and see if we can promote an understanding this time that we can get it done. There was hard feelings when we moved to Easton quite a few years ago, 12 years, 13 years ago. And there's still some old councilmen up there that still carry a little grudge. So, but we have in fact, the president contacted me, and the mayor contacted me, and one of the councilmen contacted me. So I'm not going to say anything positive right at this point, but there's talk. And talk is good. You know, if we can get some understanding of the direction and the quantity of service that we want. I have some ideas on how to start it up, like we did years ago when we started up with Wilson many years ago. It was a soft start with not as many bells and whistles that we had as we went along, but we kept adding them as we went. And if they're looking at maybe not overtaxing themselves at first, maybe that would be something that we can agree on. I don't know, but there's talk. Let's put it that way.
Next is during our snow emergency. I live on the corner of two snow emergency roads, 10th Street and Ridge Street. They weren't cleared overnight, trust me. The other issue I had, and I think the answer was, you cannot tow a car without a police officer being present. Is that an issue? Is that what happened?
They would prefer to do
it. Half a block up decided to go out in the middle of it and got stuck in the intersection, and they happened to slide over and then get into a parking spot on Ridge Street. So then, of course, the snowplows had to go around that one vehicle.
Yeah, tow truck drivers would rather have police there, or in our case, if we had a borough manager, they could enforce ordinances. So tow truck drivers would rather have someone other than themselves to the vehicle.
There's no one that can be appointed within the borough to enforce.
Well, right now we
ordinances
have,
on
we
part-time?
have an interim manager, so that could happen.
Okay, as far as his proposal over here, having worked in other businesses where they did have something like that, they also had suggested even leases rather than buying. I've been through all kinds of things where they either purchased it or they leased it and did a turnaround of anywhere between 3 and the 5-year mark. I think you've got a good idea there, but I wouldn't just go with one. I would say that I would like to hear the borough entertaining other organizations that also do the same thing, see what everybody has and what they're, because like you said, I can't remember who said it over here, the company said our computer system will handle that software program. He's saying not. Well, this guy, the guy that's giving us the software, selling us the software package is certainly going to say, well, yeah, your computer program, your computer, because he wants you to buy it. And this guy's going to say, well, no, because he wants you to get into his stuff. So you've got to have more than one thing and look at this. But certainly if you've got dated things here, that's really important to get updated and so that we're up to speed with everybody else. Or not necessarily everybody else, but with just how I think.
That's why we said we take it under revising.
Right. All right.
Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
Anybody else?
One question. Now, do I need to go over there?
Yeah, you got to stay who you are too.
Johnny Joe Bonner's, I live up on 9th Street, across from the park. Recently, there was a swing set purchased and put in the park. It was my understanding that that grant for that park was supposed to be for a passive park, not for swing sets, not for playground equipment.
That was my understanding too.
Also, where the swing set is placed, the kids that are swinging on this thing, parents aren't there. I see them because I live right across the street. Now, if these kids swing high enough and get wild enough and go backwards on those swings, or even turn around and swing toward the street, if they decide to jump off and just say, I dare you to try and jump off and land on that picnic table. That picnic table and bench is concrete. Don't you think that's a liability issue?
Yes. We're gonna keep an eye on that too.
Well, you're gonna need a backhoe to move that because that's how it was brought in.
Mayor's report.
PSAB, I don't know if you saw this. I think we have an obligation to our employees, especially the guys that drive equipment, especially when we have snow removal and things like that, that State Boroughs Association, they have DOT and non-DOT drug and alcohol testing programs. And with that, I would think that we should have some kind of training. Snow plowing, some of that, when an axle snaps in a snow truck, I don't care if it's a 1 ton, 1.5 tons, 2 ton, 3 ton, you're putting too much torque on the axle. Exactly what happened. So if it snaps because of torque, not because of running too fast. But there was 2 incidents reported that snowplow was going so fast that the snow was flying up over the front of the truck where he couldn't even see the road in front of him. Whoever was driving, I don't know who was driving it, but I had reported that once before. And I think we should have a basic training program when we bring people in to plow. Even if they've been here before, there's certain yeses and nos that you should be doing while you're plowing. And the drug and alcohol testing program that PSAB advertised, it's a random, and it's a pre-employment situation, post-accident, reasonable suspicion, and so that you're covered if there's a serious accident with one of those plows and they run into somebody and hurt and God forbid kill somebody. The first thing that they're going to do a test on it. And I think it's something that we should take seriously and look at in the near future so that we're prepared. And drug and alcohol testing program is administered by First Lab, a nationally recognized drug and alcohol testing administrator with hundreds of test sites throughout Pennsylvania. I think that we should take a good hard look at that, put a committee on it and see what we can come up with a program. In industry, I know for a fact, I was under the gun and we had testing on a regular basis. They had their physicals every year. That's another thing, guys out there driving, and how's their health? Have a heart attack while they're driving, and we have older fellows that are driving. I think it's a plus for them and it's a plus for us, for our protection as a borough. But it could get awfully expensive if something happens and somebody gets hurt or killed. And there's some suspicion of any problem. Did you have a chance, Mr. Solicitor, to look at that? I asked you a question on Section 117 of the Borough Code on the executive session situation.
Duties of the mayor?
I give you a copy of that?
Yes, it's first thing on my agenda,
Okay. I just wanted to know.
or first thing on my report.
Okay, I appreciate that. Also, in that section 17 of the Borough Code, there is a borough expense for legal fees for the mayor. I want to exercise my ability to have that, and my with council approved that. $4,000 is there for the mayor to, if he has a problem with council or any other situation, he can utilize that money. I've never had to use it before, but there's situations where I feel I may have to. So I'm asking council for put that in for $4,000 for a line item for the mayor legal expenses.
Can I say something?
That's okay.
Can I?
No,
There.
Jerry, you're saying for the budget, you mean? For next year's budget or?
I want everybody to be aware that it's there. Okay?
I thought you said put it as a line item.
Yeah.
In your report, in your report.
Okay,
I'll wait till your
I'll
report.
address it.
Wait till your report.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody understands. See, we have new people making statements and I'm glad to see that they're going to these boot camps and learning. It's very important. And I see that before the boot camp didn't come out. And I think it's a great thing, especially Robert here. He's really dedicated to picking up all the information so that he can become as good a councilman as he could be. I appreciate that from you. And I notice in how you present yourself to things. And I know other guys have now done that and are going through it. And I think it's only going to make this council stronger and less critics to be able to criticize you guys. So that's my only concern with that. I think it's a good thing. PSAB's putting on a hell of a roadshow this year to get more councils to do it. Every publication that comes out, they have an advertisement in there. And I'm getting 3 emails, I think, come out in the past 2 weeks on other training sessions. So I think it's a great thing, and I know the guys are doing it, and I think it's important for the health of the borough. I have something else if it comes up later. I'll talk to him.
Any questions?
I just have one thing for Jerry. I spoke with Dane, who was driving the truck. The rear didn't snap, the gears started to strip under a load. And it happened coming out of the alley between Palmer and Ridge, the last big hill to get up on the ridge. And he was able to drive it, but whenever there was a load, it would just strip through. When they pulled the rear apart, nothing was really broken, but the teeth were pretty well worn. So just to let you know, it wasn't like a slam into a wall, snap an axle. It was a lot of wear. It was our older vehicle to begin with. And we just couldn't push anything of any strength with it, but it got around.
Well, that's where you get your torque, but it's small alleys, and you have no place to push it.
It was coming up the steepest alley that we had. So just wanted to.
No, that's fine, that's fine. And one of the other things, while I'm on the subject, then we should set up a program of making sure that they get the right maintenance.
That's where I was going with my statement.
We're
We're running an older truck. We had, and Henry pointed out that in the back of the garage here, we had a spare tire that was flat for 2 years and didn't even have a spare tire for the truck. No maintenance on anything. Hoses leaking.
Oh, let's get off the shit, no maintenance on anything.
That's right,
Listen,
Tom.
here's
There was no
the problem,
maintenance on it. You had a spare tire in the
come on
garage
now.
that was flat for 2 years.
No.
Come on, give us us a
No,
break here.
it's bad enough you had Dane come up here and say he never got raised.
There you
Mr.
go.
Paul James. 2 years I was on with you with the thing, did we not give him a raise?
I know he voted.
That's right.
He voted for
He
it.
came up here,
But
whatever
never
last
got it.
meeting,
But
I
never
was
got it.
sick.
Well, he put it in the budget.
Yeah,
Dave,
he got it.
Dave looked into the records.
How the heck did he get
I'm
so
talking to
many
Dave now.
days
Dave, when's the last
vacation?
time that
Come on,
Dave?
Dan.
That's gonna be one of the
When's the
next
last time that
Yeah.
Dave got a raise? You looked at the
I
records.
just shut my
Yeah.
hearing aid off.
Answer the question.
Come on.
It was prior to 2013.
There you go.
Yeah.
No more questions on that. He didn't
No.
get a raise, now we got none.
I don't hear nothing.
Yeah, nobody here is not to the
Let me put it back on now.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
still have a
thank you for that.
All I'm saying is, to keep the trucks running right, changing the oil is one of the cheapest things you can do. Having them checked out at a reputable place on a regular basis. If there was a spare tires in that garage, it's up to the guy that we were paying out there in that garage to make sure that that tire was ready.
He had to get permission to do it, Jerry. Come
No.
on, let's get
No,
off of
he
this
didn't.
thing. We got an in-house mechanic now. That's the end of the story.
No,
That's the end of the story.
story.
That's the end of the story.
People
That's it.
elected me and I'm their voice here, so you're gonna hear.
You're elected,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, we'll get into you next, Tommy.
Yeah,
All right?
go right ahead.
Mayor, you done with your report? We have a maintenance program set up.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to finish it. We got off the subject again. All I'm saying is to keep the equipment running, not only the trucks, the lawnmowers. Some of those lawnmowers, if they make it through the seasons,
Whose fault's that?
the people that run them, check the oil. You know, I was up in the yard, up in the ball field, and they were running them back and forth, and I walked over and they shut them down. I pulled the dipstick, I let it set a little bit, pulled it, pushed it back in, there was very little showing on the stick. Now, an operator's responsibility is to get off that thing, check the oil, and make sure that my guys, when they go out on a job, they check it at least 3 times a day. Now, all I'm saying is it's a practice, it's a very simple practice, and it keeps your equipment healthy. Unless you want to spend $3,000 and replace a 26 horsepower engine, or $3,500 plus a maintenance guy to put it in, then don't change the oil. Just run it so it gets so thick you can't even get it out of the drain tube.
Now, I know, when we had the big snowstorm, prior to that, I had Dane check out the spreader. Dane started the spreader up,
Good thing he did, the brand new one was wired back,
It broke.
we only got it from the shop, from
it
the
broke,
park.
the coupling broke. So, we called the company up, they said they don't handle that model no more, which is brand new. So, we got one from Dandy Paul found one, we put that on. Started up the spreader, and it was going backwards. So, we fixed that. We rewired that. Now, the stove's here, we're plowing. The V-plow, we're going up, we want to plow going up the street. Throw the snow to the right. The plow won't stay that way, just back. So then the snow was getting so deep, I told the guys, I want them both run together. Had the new truck going up the opposite way of the road and the old truck going the other way. That was great. Until the old truck got a flat tire. When the old truck got the flat tire, we started losing ground. We were getting 3 inches an hour. All of our emergency routes were open. We were trying to push back the side. Once we got that thing back and we run, we cleaned it again, then the axle moved.
We had to get a spare tire from Wilson Borough. They lent us a spare tire because we didn't have a spare tire.
So at that point, the axle went out. So we were down with one truck trying to keep up with this stuff. And the guys did the best thing they could. The only trouble is the new truck we got isn't made to do these roads. It's a light truck. It can only hold 1 ton of salt. The other truck out there, you can almost put 4 ton on. Anyway, that had to go to the shop to get fixed. So we took it out, because we blew the front wheel drive of that truck. The whole ball bearings were laying on the floor. We took that out to Star GMC, and they had it for a week and a half. And when they got done with it, they said we had to take it over to Stripesville, over there in Jersey, to fix the spreader. And the guy said, "Ooh, you got the truck like Clinton does. They have the same problem, plow and the spindle." So they put a new spreader on, and we came back for the plow. We had to take it back out to the store to get that fixed. That's what we were plagued with. Be thankful you had your streets open at all. Because without that, you couldn't get a truck if you tried to buy one. I called up Hertz Rental, which I had a long line of credit rating with them, and I borrowed equipment. The guy said, "Heck, I can't even steal you one. You're stuck." And everybody else was running around. So the trucks we got, and we would give it back tomorrow if we could. But you gotta understand something. We have money, and we bought it with a 5-year lease program, which we're paying $9,000 on. Think about this. We get a 0.25% for our money. You know, it doesn't make sense when you got $1 million in the bank, or 800,000, whatever. But we're stuck with it. And the lease says, if you break it, you fix it. So, we don't know if the lease company's going to come back and give us a charge for the salt spreader. We don't know if they're going to give us a charge for what anything else happens, because it's a leased truck. That's the position we're in. And we're paying $4,000 a quarter, so we already had it for a year, I guess. We got about 20-some thousand invested. But if we trade it in, we still got to give them the $9,000 interest. So we're stuck with that problem. And we can go on with all the other problems, but the joke of it is, we only been here 50 days. And every day we got to be here for some stupid reason this wasn't done right. And believe me, I'm just as frustrated as you people are what goes on. But we're going through it. Be patient. I know we're trying to be. That's about the trucks. Oh, and we did fix the furnace too, didn't we?
Yeah, I'll get into that.
Yeah.
For $25. Engineers report, no engineers report. Pete, any engineers report from Barry Isaac?
No, we have one small thing. We turned over the open permits that are pending. 73 Main Street, Mr. Ogatu, with the conversion in the back into 3 apartments. They're unable to contact him to schedule the inspection. He's not returning phone calls. 2 other just home inspection, I guess it was transfers. They had failed the initial inspection, and of course it gives them time to get the re-inspection done. So there are the 2 open issues that ISAC is working on. We've already sent them a couple other inspections that got done, a couple construction projects that they seem to be responding quite adequately.
Pete, now about the one I brought up a month ago on Hubcap store. The complaint came from Bill Gutierre Jr., the chief of fire, and he says if they ever have a fire down there, they're not going to be able to get any trucks in there.
That I think we talked to them about the zoning issue. That had something to do with the zoning.
We have to get somebody in there, but he's gonna run the code stuff, and it's right in the, only 11 trucks were supposed to be there.
That's what I mean. He went to a zoning hearing for that, and they did put a restriction on it, on how many.
Yeah.
And it's the zoning
So
issue.
it has to be rectified, because they're concerned at the firehouse that they could have a real problem down there if that place has a problem.
Okay. Holly will ask him about the zoning
Yeah,
issue.
Bill came to me, it's over a month now. He's concerned.
Solicitor's report.
Going in order based on the agenda. The mayor asked me to report back with regard to the solicitor's duty to the mayor and how that works. You have a memo that I provided to you dated February 16th, 2016. Rather than reading the memo and providing it to you in great detail, let me give you the Cliff Notes version. The solicitor is under the control of Borough Council, and the borough shall not employ additional counsel without the ramification of council. Meaning council decides if and when you ever need somebody else other than the borough solicitor. So to address the mayor's initial concern, there is no requirement that you provide a budget for the mayor for legal issues whatsoever. The second thing is, you have to address under the law in the Borough Code, what is the role of the mayor? And that's an important thing. The Borough Code specifically outlines what the mayor is responsible for. And again, Cliff's Notes version, it's very, very little. The mayor's duties and powers are set forth in the statute under section 10A, 06, and 07. And they're very limited. They relate to taking oaths, where you have an individual who's sworn in, taking certain actions towards states of emergency, and then in essence to do anything that council asks him to do. And then there's stuff with regard to police, which doesn't apply in West Easton. And there's various fees and things that when the mayor is the person who collects those things. So those are the very limited instances in which a mayor plays a role under the Borough Code. Nothing else, unless council then allows or authorizes the mayor to do it. The mayor doesn't even have a right to participate in council meetings, except for very limited circumstances. So that's what the mayor is permitted to do. One of the few things the mayor is permitted to do, is the stuff you know already, but I'm going to tell you, and it's in the memo, is the organizational meeting. You have the first meeting of the year, the mayor presides that until you have a president of council. There are certain tie votes and split votes. And if that comes up, the mayor then does this, does the tie vote. That rarely happens based on the voting history here, but can happen. The mayor doesn't even have a right to speak on agenda items under the Borough Code. So there's a series of very limited things that the Borough Code allows a mayor to do and authorizes a mayor to do. When we're talking about those specific limited areas, the borough solicitor, myself, has an obligation to represent the mayor, just like I would for any other borough council member. If you ask me to do something for borough purposes, I'm required to do it. I can't do it for personal purposes for anybody, obviously, in my position as borough solicitor. So if the mayor says, hey, here's the area that I control, and again, it's very limited, but here's the area I control, solicitor, I want you to look into this for me, I have an obligation to do so. If council feels I'm not doing a good job or can't do a good job with regard to the mayor's issues, you have a right to appoint a different counsel, if and when that, when I say different counsel, different lawyer, if and when that comes up. I can't see where that's happened yet, but that's certainly your decision. So that's what the mayor's roles are, and that's what my obligation to the mayor is. And I think what might help council, because things have been done in this borough in a way contrary to what the law is for some time, I think it's important to know what is the law. And I've outlined it for you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them from anyone.
Thank you. And the reason I questioned it was the fact that a new council and getting them on stream to understand their position. And the same with the council, there's a manual that they should pick up, get it from Bob Freeman, and read it. It's very informative, and it gives you all the information you may ever need. And then you won't have to bother the solicitor for a lot of googly block. But the main reason, I thank you for that, I knew what it was, and my participation in council over the years has been positive to the borough of West Easton, and that's my charge too, to make sure that everything, I overlooked things that I feel council should be doing, or suggesting they should be doing. And if they want to do it, fine. And over the years, we've been very successful that way. So I appreciate your report. Thank you.
Any questions for the solicitor on that issue?
Well, something you said in the beginning, Len, you said there's not the money for the mayor?
The mayor in his report asked,
Right.
or made a request for funds.
Okay, we don't have to honor it.
No, there's absolutely no obligation to do so.
Right.
I wanted to alert you that if you wanted to do that, you could do that. Just like you as council, you can do all sorts of things. So there is authority to do it if necessary, if you, when I say you, I mean borough council, feels it's necessary. But there's no obligation to do it, and there's no requirement to do it.
Right. Thank you.
If there's no more questions, I'll move on to the next one. Pursuant to the direction of council, I forwarded a letter to Kelly Gross via certified mail and first-class mail regarding the emergency management coordinator position. It was dated February 10, 2016. There was a deadline to respond and to pay back the monies due and owing by Friday. I have not received the funds. To the best of my knowledge, the borough has not received the funds. We can determine how to proceed either in executive session, because it's potential litigation, or if council so chooses, you can do it now. But it would be an executive session discussion. There's no questions? With regard to the separate letter, with regard to the mailing that was sent out on December 30th, that was sent out February 12th, 2016 to Kelly Gross, certified mail and first-class mail. That also had a deadline of this Friday to make payment. That has not been paid either. So I believe that's also an executive session matter.
The Friday that just passed.
Yes, 3 days ago. Next on the list was T&M, but we already have addressed that with regard to the payment of the bills. Next is with regard to the computers, and that's something I believe, again, is in executive session. Next on the list is the condemnation. I want to provide an update with regard to that, since that's in litigation. That also should go into executive session. Then, next on the list is a question regarding bonding. I forwarded correspondence to Borough Council dated February 22 about bonding. At one of our earlier meetings, there was a question as to who should be bonded. And my recommendation is whoever handles money should be bonded. At that point, I was under the mistaken impression that it was only staff that handled money, that it was Dave and Joan. I did not realize who was writing the checks at that point. Whoever's writing the checks should also be bonded. So it's my recommendation that anybody who essentially touches borough money, so that would be the people who handle cash, the people who are responsible for the books, the people who write checks, should be bonded. And I think we're in the process of putting that together, because as you may recall, there was no bonding. For whatever reason, the borough did not have any bonding, which is a very dangerous position to have.
You have a suggestion on the amount they should be bonded for?
I think $25,000 was a recommendation from your provider, because it was a relatively low number, but a reasonable number. Once you get up to like the $50,000, $100,000 bonding numbers, it gets really expensive.
Steve, I have a question. When you say writes the checks, I mean, the checks are ran by Dave on the computer. Are you referring to who signs checks?
Yes. People who write and sign.
Oh, sign.
The concept being that, no offense to anybody, anywhere really, but it's true in any municipality, you want to be able to bond anyone who would be in a position to do something improper. I'm not suggesting anybody ever would, but that's the whole idea for the bonding. And I give that same advice to all the other municipalities I represent. And nobody likes it, but we should do it and we have to do it. So if you want to address that now, but I think the status was we're in the process of getting information to the bonding company. Dave, is that where we were?
Yeah.
Next on the list is the DUI Center. There was an inquiry with regard to payments for the DUI Center, and nobody seemed to have an understanding as to where this came from or how it came from. I obtained the ordinance, which is Ordinance 885, and provided it to you, which at least references how the DUI Center comes into play in essence. So that's a starting point as to where, what we can do moving forward. If you want me to move forward with it, I'm happy to, but somebody needs to know where we're going with this. So we don't have to address that now, but we have to address it sooner or later. And the next two are things that I think are on our horizon, but we have to discuss at some point after we had an opportunity to review. The curb cut ordinance as well as the LST ordinance. Both I've drafted, both are in your packets. I'm not suggesting we should vote on this today because they're important and they're big. But it's something that at least we should look at and perhaps put on the next agenda or the agenda after that for discussion and review. So you have the proposed curb cut ordinance, which I sent February 12th, as well as same day I set forth an LST ordinance. As you may recall with regard to the LST ordinance, we have a resolution that establishes the ordinance, but we don't collect it. So either we should collect it and pass the ordinance, or we should decide not to do anything with the LST ordinance and rescind the resolution. But right now, we've done it the worst possible way. We're in no man's land. And that's the end of my report for now, if there's any questions.
Any questions for the solicitor? Seeing none, office report.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Not at this time, near the end.
Well, it has to do with the bonding, that's why. Okay.
Office report.
Okay, first thing would be an update on the computer. We now have all three of the computers that were purchased last year in the office and working. One that was missing actually had a hard drive die shortly after it began operation, and it was removed. It was returned over this weekend and is now up and working. When we had Easy Micro here initially to check our equipment that we have in-house, one of the PCs that were in-house at that time already had an expired warranty. The second one that was here only had a warranty that was good for another 2 months. Now the third one was not here, so it could not be checked. On Friday, February 12th, Rich, who was here with us this evening, met with the computer committee, and myself sat in on that meeting, and we also spoke directly to Jim Arms, who is the person that we've been working with at Dallas Data, and he told the committee and Rich, who was here, that he would not recommend running our new software, which was bought and paid for last year, on a refurbished computer. And his analogy was rebuilding a used car or going out and getting a new car, especially since the refurbished computer does not have a warranty. We had another gentleman in from Easy Micro on Thursday. They made he reevaluated everything again, reported back to Easy Micro. They did some inserts for us to make things easier to access. I can now access the old server with our AMS information on it from my computer again, because the switch was removed at the end of the year. So instead of being running back and forth from 2 offices, I can do everything at my desk. All the information is back up to current with as far as financial information. As of February 12th, we also mailed out the first quarter billing for the sewer and trash. When they also looked at the existing server right now that we do have, the refurbished one, the software needs to be reloaded on that system because the program is corrupt. It was either a power outage or the examples that they gave me was either we could have had a power outage that could have caused that, or while the server was up and running, somebody pulled the plug. I don't know. I'm not pointing fingers or anything, but that's where we are with what's going on in the office.
I also understand that there's a sod person that Earl bought these computers from. Asked if we wanted a new server or a used server. That question, I think, was asked.
Yes, and his answer was Kelly decided to go for a refurbished or used computer to save the borough money.
And Gino is our IT guy, and he came in on 17th, I believe.
Right, he was in on third.
And Sunday.
Well, he was in on the 17th, which was last Wednesday, because at that time I was running from one office to another, walking back and forth, whatever, to be able to work on AMS. And at that point in time, the server that AMS is being used through, like I said, is corrupt, and you couldn't do anything. You had to actually shut the system down, bring it up, and it took Gino multiple tries to get it to reboot that we could use it again.
And he did.
Yes. After about a half an hour of trial and error.
server underneath your desk, and there was a precaution that he wanted to take by putting a switch on it,
Right,
which we had a switch, but it's missing now.
right.
So he left it in the back, and then it was hooked up a different way. Any questions for the office?
I have a lick I had on his, I didn't really finish the manager's report.
Oh, okay.
One of the things I'm trying to do is update the employee files, because, you know, we brought in a couple people for snow plowing. I want to make sure I have all the W-4s that I need, and also I'll be looking at your ethics forms. For those that just ran on election, it's the same form. You're required to have it, well, we're collecting 15s now. And even when somebody leaves, you have to still fill it out a year later. So even though somebody who is no longer on council, next year will be needing another form. It follows you for 1 year after your position. We are missing some personnel files. I'll be requesting some W-4s from some people. I'm trying to rebuild the files, so you'll be hearing from me in the near future. I think right now we're current on most of the ethics forms. So, because most of you were fresh and you had to fill them out when you did your election. The other question I have, just some of the problems I'm running into, nothing seems to be going very easy. Every time I'm looking for something, I run into a roadblock. And Steve, I have to ask you this one. We had someone come in to ask about a zoning issue, whether they need and possibly need a zoning hearing. And I had to look up what the fees were. And we did the indexing through the computer, and it told me it was resolution 870. Now that's all our computers do, is give us an index. The actual resolution or ordinance isn't in there, it never was scanned in. So I go into the resolution book, 870 is missing. I'm on preceding, and after it's there, it's just 870, the zoning fees is missing. I only spent maybe another 15 minutes going through drawers trying to figure it out. I went into a zoning book in there that had Donna's name on it. And on the very back page, with Scotch tape, is the resolution 870. No signatures, nothing. But it did reference the date, it was like the 9th of 2010, November. I went to the minute book, I did find it. So it was passed in the minutes, but I don't have a resolution that's in our book, nor one that's signed. How do we go back and get signatures, or what do we have to do? We have to do a reaffirmation of it or something?
Yes, what we'd have to do is we'd have to bring it up at some point and ratify the old resolution. So what we do is we ratify resolution number, whatever you said it was, 870.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, it's similar to what we had to do after the organizational meeting, where we did it incorrectly. And we had the next meeting, we ratified everything we did at the earlier meeting to make sure it was done right. So we would do that. But more to Pete's point, this is what we had discussed at prior meetings about why it's important to have some sort of codification of the ordinances, to have a master list of where they are, and so on. So we don't have this poor problem of Pete and Dave running through, files or trying to dig up paperwork. I mean, this is elementary for every governmental organization. We need to do this. It costs money, and I realize there's always a monetary issue. It doesn't necessarily have to come from me, but someone has to do this, and someone has to, look it over and make sure it's done. So later on, we don't have to go through this process of not being able to find something, or not being able to know where something is, which will then open us up inevitably to litigation at some point in time, where we try to enforce something that we don't have the right to enforce. We are now paying, this council is going to pay the price of things not being done right for a long time. But that's the way it is.
Steve, I actually have a copy of the minutes, November 9th, 2009. The motion was 7-0, it passed, unanimous. So, I mean, I have proof that it's in the minutes.
Right.
I have the resolution. Can we do something tonight?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, any ordinance, is my understanding, as long as we don't change anything in the ordinance, we don't have to advertise it again.
Well, it's not an ordinance, it's a resolution.
I'm just talking about ordinances, and then resolutions, naturally, you don't have to advertise.
Yeah, so if we're gonna address this now, and, you know, if you want to discuss it later, but if somebody was inclined to make a motion to ratify the resolution number 870, setting forth zoning hearing board fees, effective as of the date, if you would, effective as of the date of November 9, 2009, we can do that.
And what are the fees then? It does list the fees?
It does, yes.
We can change the fees later, we're just ratifying this
I
document.
just wanna see what they are.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you look through
We're
it.
gonna pass this around, I would table it, so we can figure out if that's the correct fees or not.
Well, Danny, that's what we've been
I
charging.
mean, that's what we're charging.
And to Mr. Lewis's point, you're absolutely right. Next meeting, you could say those aren't the right fees, or you can change them up or down or otherwise.
But for now, those are the fees, but they're not the lawful fees.
What was that?
We are charging people fees.
Right.
We don't have a correct resolution saying that it's
Right.
correct fees. So what we're doing right now is making them correct, and then we can always discuss it later, deal with it.
Yeah, we can, I'll take that back, we can pass this now if it's so wished. Do I have a motion to pass resolution 870?
I'll make the motion to pass that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
To be clear, your motion is to ratify 870 as of the date it was passed, which would be November 9, 2009, correct?
Thank you, yes.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
We need signatures.
Yes.
That could be later.
Yeah, but we should date it for today, ratifying.
Okay.
So,
Anything else, Dave or Pete?
No. That's it.
I want to report on the workman's comp policy. We still have that in the office that you're working on, as far as,
Yeah, I'm finding out that SWIFT, that state thing, is usually a last resort that people go to that have trouble getting it. I've talked to 3 other boroughs. It's usually more expensive, but you said you've already talked to them.
I already talked to him, and there was a scale of population, and the amount that the fire company should be assured for is $8,666,
Yeah, I have all the numbers.
and we're paying $14,000 now.
Yeah, and your estimate was around 8.
Yeah, but then we also have to add the office employees to it, which will drive it up a little bit, I would think, because the major part, from my understanding from Brown and Brown, is that the mass majority of that workman's compensation policy is the Act 46 of the fire company. So I would ask to find out how much it would cost to insure the employees with their salaries. They go by salaries.
Yeah, I dug up the old proposal too from Brown and Brown for the last 2 years, and I'm trying to review those too, to follow their pattern a little bit and see where they were going.
But I believe we were paying less because we were a member of the Keystone Municipality Insurance Trust, and it was canceled because they were told that we were going to have a paid police force, and they canceled our policy at the end of 2013.
They were never told. I'll tell you what happened. Exactly what happened. When Easton canceled us, and we were scrambling, then we went to Wilson-Borough, and Wilson-Borough turned us down. They didn't want any part of us. I had to do my due diligence and find out costs. I had all kinds of costs, policemen, cars, everything that we would need if we would go on our own. The other thing was the cost. The question was to them, how expensive would the insurance be for police if we opted to have a police force in West Easton? That was the question. I'm reading this Keystone Municipal Insurance Trust thing, And what they're saying on there is not what the question was, and it wasn't ever put to them that we were gonna have a police force, because we, at that point in time, we weren't in a position to have a police force. And it would have cost us 5 times what it cost us to have Easton, to initiate a police force in this borough. The numbers that I had, including insurances and everything else. And to do it right, you had to ask that question. Based on that, and based on prior problem that Keystone had with the fire company situation in Pennsylvania, with the heart and lung and the cancer situation, that threw some ice on the situation prior to October the 7th. So this was a ball of wax, and I think Keystone read a lot into it, because that's when our fire company insurance went up, and we had to scramble to get fire insurance, workers' comp for them. And also, they were never told that we were gonna have a police department.
Well, when they sent this letter, Jerry, you should have wrote back and said that's not a true statement, it's black and white, it's an official letter. And actually, it's a USPS mail,
Yeah.
return receipt, it should have been responded to.
And this is the first I saw this letter,
And
when it was in my packet.
this is the first time anybody saw this
Well, let me ask you, is it too late to call them up now and say we don't have a police department and we get insurance again?
That's right, that's why I went to office.
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest, because
And the Act 46.
that's how that happened probably, because there's no other way it could have happened. We never committed to the insurance company for any insurance quote at all. All we asked them is, how expensive would it be to have our own police force?
Well, they didn't make this up out of air, Jerry. It says in here that we're
I-
exposed due to the addition of paid police.
Yeah, but Dan, I just explained that.
I know, but they should have wrote back. There's no
I wonder if I
police.
had a copy of this.
Well, you didn't get a lot of
That's
cars
theirs.
and stuff.
That's the problem. Thank you.
You remember what the solicitor just said about the mayor's involvement in the meetings? Well, I've been here 50 years, so
Yeah, but you didn't even get your own, you didn't get a report from your, the council president at the time.
absolutely.
Well, that's not right.
I'm not being critical of anything, I'm
Well,
just
you-
saying I didn't have a
You
copy.
got it from me.
Well, I'm thankful for it. I appreciate that. That's why I could speak to it tonight.
Well, everybody's getting everything. So,
Well, that's the way it should be.
snow removal, hope to get money back. The county will let us know. That's a decision that's made by,
The feds are going, the governor asked the feds for money today, Dan. Something like
the county will inform us, how much we get. We got it in, we filled out the forms, we got it in, before the due date, it's all taken care of. We talked about truck maintenance. The hoses are still leaking, we're gonna have our guy come in and look at them hopefully. That's up to Henry here. When Matthew asked about surveillance camera tape to put on, as a private citizen, how do we stand on that?
It's a legal matter now, so, of course, the right to know request was denied.
Or you withdrew it?
No, I waited for the result. It's denied because it now falls under basically a legal matter or an investigative matter. Right? Am I?
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
We have to pick a tree.
We have 9th Street swings on the agenda. A neighbor in 9th Street called up this office and asked why the swings were put up on 9th Street. Before I get to that, we have minutes that it was supposed to be 2 adult swings and 2 children's buckets. And also a receipt from the company that delivered them said there was 3 adult swings and 1 child's bucket seat. What happened to the bucket seat? 1 or 2? Nobody knows. So if we pay, there's another thing we paid for, and it was on a invoice that we were supposed to get, as far as the invoice said, here it is. 3 belt seats and 1 infant swing. And that's what we paid for, but we didn't get it. The minutes reflect that there were supposed to be 2 belt swings and 2 infant swings, which we didn't get. So we'll have to call up this company that I have the name here and find out what happened. We paid for something we didn't get.
What's the cost of those swing sets, so far?
Dave?
$4,600 so far, and we have one outstanding bill we've not received.
That's in a bill, how much?
I don't know.
That was supposed to be for the children. That didn't happen. I've been getting calls about Mr. Nico. Mr. Nico hasn't been here since November of 2014. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, just so people understand out there, a council person can't be removed from office for missing meetings. It's until Mr. Nico decides to resign, that chair can stay empty for another 2 years. It's just the way Pennsylvania law is set up for boroughs.
But there is public opinion.
I visited with him a couple times in the past, since Christmas and once in January. He's causing
He knows a great
everything that's
deal.
going on, but I don't think he'd get around anymore. He's in his chair, you know, and he still asks about how the council's going. He wants to know what's going on in the borough. Those are my questions, but I understand people wondering. That's why I stopped in, just to give an update.
But if you're talking to him, Jerry, and I have the highest respect for Mr. Nico, we need a full body council. And it can be, you can tell him, I'm sure if you find somebody to take his seat, and if he is healthy enough and wants to come back, that person would probably resign and let him back. But until then, he can be simply the chair.
Well, he has that in his head that he's going to get down here, you know. And I even offered, I said, I'll come pick you up if you want to come to the meeting. But, you know, when he was here even, he had his problems.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Basketball nets were put up at the end of after years of the basketball nets being down, all of a sudden they're put up at the end of last year, in the winter.
They're being used. Tonight there was 8 kids over there.
Yeah, I saw them over there myself.
Yeah, they're using them. They found them now. They probably weren't used in the beginning, but because they didn't recognize they were there.
Just wanted to make note of that. Then we have a light that was bought at Fastenal in September. Signed by Tommy. Where's the light?
Ask Dane what happened to it. It was bought for the Jeep out there. It was put on his table.
He can't find it.
Well, don't ask me about it. It was out there.
He said he never used it.
He was one of the ones that wanted that he had no light in that car.
So we'll ask Dane where it is.
Well, it's like, you gotta ask him where it was. He said he never got a raise, and he got raises.
You heard?
So, hey, listen,
You
you're
heard
the kid,
the
I
office
told him,
work
let's go ahead and
say
say
that
so.
he didn't get a raise, he looked in the records. He knows he makes out the paychecks.
No.
No, he does make out the paychecks.
Yep.
Zoning board members. Dave, how do we stand on zoning board members? We have 4 members, and we have 1 open seat,
Yes.
and we have 2 applications. Does council want to go over that tonight?
Does everybody have a copy of the applications?
Yes. We can appoint 1 to fill the vacant seat and 1 as an alternate. I can tell you this, 1 application, which was sparsely wrote out.
This one says, his name is Stephen R. Claver. I, Stephen R. Claver, am interested in the open position for the zoning board.
Well, he actually served on the zoning board in West Easton years ago,
Yeah, he doesn't remember.
so he's quite familiar. He moved away, and from what I understand, he moved back, is that right, Dave?
Yeah, that's correct.
And he came in to check on a bill or pay a bill,
Pay his utility bill.
and he saw in the newsletter,
And he asked, and when we spoke to him, I just typed out something quick for him to sign, so.
I can just safely say that he had experience in this zoning board for West Easton.
Okay.
And I think the other fellow, this young fellow, I think it'd be nice.
Yeah, he's 30 years old, and we always talk about getting, younger group than us old farts here.
And if we point him, if you want to point him as an alternate, he can sit on that zoning board.
We can put the other guys in alternate, that would work too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Either way.
Well, just to let you know, he's moved to the borough, he's got a child. I don't know him personally, he's a neighbor. I went across the street because he was interested in stuff going on in town. He's a volunteer firefighter, young working guy. You've got his work history here. Like I said, he's not a friend, he's a neighbor. You guys can vote either way you want, but if you've got 2 applicants, I'm sure he'd be happy as an alternate. He just wants to get involved in town.
Does somebody want to make a motion on either one for the position and one for the alternate? It's up to someone to make a motion.
If nobody's gonna make a motion, then I'll make a motion for David Kinder to be on the zoning board. And, if that's successful, the alternate would be Stephen or Clay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion since Matt made it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
So then, just so we're clear on this, the motion was to appoint the member to the zoning board, correct?
Right, and the other
Then you should
thing,
do a second, to do this right, you should do a second motion to do an alternate.
Okay.
Because theoretically, you could not vote for the alternate if you wanted to, not that you're going to.
Oh, I thought, okay, I was trying to make a motion to be the remainder would be the alternate. Okay, we'll do it again. I make a motion to make Stephen R. Claver, I think I got the name right, the alternate for the zoning board.
I'll second that motion.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The remaining 4 people here took interest in going to boot camp. They came down to the office and they let the office workers know that they wanted to be at boot camp, and they attended. And and I also went. And one thing I found out that I did not know was that the bid, if you want to work on a project and the bid is over 19.4 now, which was always 10,000 years ago, is now 19.4 that it has to go out for bid. Other ones, you can get 3 quotes, estimates, whatever you want to call them. Anybody else want to talk about?
Well, I wanted to mention one thing I was surprised to find out, and it still boggles my mind. Minutes of these meetings, I always assumed that they had to be approved within 30 days or automatically approved. According to the boot camp, if we don't approve minutes, they can go on forever without being approved, which means they would never have to be given to the public because they're unapproved minutes. So I thought that was really bizarre. Am I wrong with this? That's what they told me.
I went through this, and it's just so you know that if they're not approved, then draft minutes becomes what has to be released, because I went through this over and over and over again with the monster who used to run the program.
So you've gotten minutes that were just drafts?
Minutes were always approved.
The decisions came out that if you're refusing to approve minutes so you don't have to release them, then the draft minutes become the official record and they have to be released.
Okay.
It was every single game that could have been played.
Well, we approved.
And $50,000.
Trish, we approved minutes, so we're not.
No, it just surprised me that the approved minutes.
And any other, anybody want to speak about it?
I was question too is about the Right to Know Act. They were hidden, that minutes didn't need to be the Right to Know Act.
What's that?
They didn't need to be the Right to Know Act. Minutes that were approved.
Oh, I mean, they were already approved,
Yes.
and there was no reason,
If you wanted them, you had to pay them copies, but you didn't have to have somebody to pre-prove the right to know.
yeah,
Because the minutes were approved by
we
it.
knew that.
But also, there was a problem about the fuel oil allotment we get. They tell you they want you to spend that money and not hold on to it. Right?
No, that's,
No, I got a ruling today on that, thank you. Jeff Roebuck, he's the gentleman that represents the liquid fuels. He was in here a couple of weeks ago to help fill out the application. He wrote in an email, municipality does not have to spend their liquid fuel allocation each and every year. The allocation and account balance gets rolled over to the next year. He did cite a publication in a chapter. He was on the road today, so he kind of did this from his iPhone.
Oh, so you're saying,
But-
hold it for 4 years.
Well, if you're working on a big project, I guess we must be working on an interchange on 78 right now, because we're gonna have about $160,000 in it. And he did make mention when he was here that the county has to spend that money. At the end of the year, if they don't, they have to disperse it amongst the communities in the county. But as far as each municipality, we can roll it over. And the reason for that, Hank, is if you have a big project, like we have Main Street coming up, and up here on the hill, if you just want to use liquid fuels to do it, with this year's approximately $30,000 allocation, we'll be at 160,000 plus. Now, there is something that I'll be talking to you in the future. We haven't been using it. I mean, he brought in the last 3 years' records so that we can file this year's report. And we haven't touched it. And some of the things that you can pay out of that are street signs, that I just saw we spent $6,000 for street signs. As long as they're PennDOT approved signs, that they can buy that. Your street lights that are out there burning right now, you can take that part of the electric bill for street lights, and it is a separate item on the bill. Liquid fuels can pay for your electric bill. And we got all these little projects, the guide rails and things like that. We could be using it, but for some reason, the council has always been choosing to throw it into the general fund and put it out to the taxpayers. But we do have, coming probably another month, we should get the check, 160,000 in liquid fuels. But we do have road projects. that are costing
You're saying with the money we get from this check would add up to 160?
160.
Okay. I think I read it was 34,000 this year.
And we already have a
Because
130.
they posted online if you go in.
Right, but we didn't get the check, but I mean, it's gonna be over 160,000. Just to
I-
keep it.
I have 2 more things, or 3 more things. As you can tell, it's nice and warm in here. We have a furnace running. We bought a $25 niter, put it in, bought an extra one. It works. Life insurance policy. We have a life insurance policy that a new company took over in July of last year. There's only 4 people on it. It's for the council members, elected officials. If you want to have a life insurance policy, everyone should be equal. Not 2 people at $10,000 and 2 other people at $1,200. So it's council's wish. Do you want to have a life insurance policy on each member, which would be, I would say, between 1,000 and 2,000 equally with everyone? Or do you just want to scrap the whole idea of having a life insurance policy?
What's the cost of it to the taxpayers?
I would say if 7 members, 7, 9, 8, if 8 people were on it, I would say $30 a month.
Pardon me for asking, but is this a life insurance policy that the borough council members are paying for, or that the...
Well, from what I'm getting throughout the years here, West Easton Borough's been paying this insurance company since July of last year, and another company before that. You have the records on that?
It's been in existence since 2002. And now I emailed Ed Cannell at PSAB to find out if this was something that needed to be instituted. It's instituted at the state level for the boroughs, and he's not replied back to my email yet.
All right, because this one here is dated July 2015. Mr. James is not on the policy, and he was a council person. I'm not on the policy, and I was a council person. So you want to continue with the?
Well, before you do anything, what you're doing is, just so we're clear on this, is if you decide to go forward with this, a couple things you should do before you make any decisions. One, figure out how it was actually done. Because was there a vote done? Was there an ordinance? Was there a resolution? Because this is essentially pay. It's a fringe benefit, but it's pay for council members.
And it's paid by taxpayers' money. That's why I asked, do you want to scrap the whole idea? Because we don't know what's what, because there's only 4 members on it.
Steve, again, we just go to an index, and we tried life insurance, and I read through 20 pages, and there's no resolution that can zero me in other than going in there and start reading volumes.
Well, if he gave you a date.
No, there's nothing at that date. I looked to see if it was even before, and then that date there was a renewal or something like that. Couldn't find it.
Pretty good.
I think we should go.
I think you might remember something.
Ask Carl Pearson.
I'm worried about who it is.
Carl Pearson, Bill McGarrett, they were.
And this policy is only for people serving in the present times.
Why don't we, can I make a suggestion? I don't know whether it is something we can opt in and pay for ourselves if we want. It sounds really cheap to me, but. I mean, I've got insurance from my employer, I'm not worried about insurance.
That's the
I'm
route
not
I
a
would,
little extra.
that's the route I would want to take. If we can get,
But here's the problem. It's just so you have to be very careful about
we
this.
never voted on it.
Not only that, but you can't, you're essentially, depending on what this is, you're giving yourself a benefit. You can't give yourself, for example, you can't give yourself a raise while you're in office.
No, I'm proposing we pay for.
I understand what you are, I understand. I'm not saying, so step number 1 is my recommendation is we don't do anything today until we at least know what this is. And number 2, if your proposal is maybe we want the taxpayers to pay for it, at least consider it, then you have to handle it a very different way. Because then you're giving yourself a raise. I realize it's not a big raise, but it's a raise. So if that's the case, if it's the case where you're just making yourself eligible and you're paying out of your own pocket, that might be something different. But my point is, these are important ethical issues that you don't fool around with. You have to do the right way.
Well, the issue is, this is a bill to be paid this month.
Well, pay it.
No, I wouldn't pay because the people, some of the people aren't even here that are on this policy.
I wouldn't pay it.
So I would call up and say, this has to be all worked out. Cancel it.
Well, cancel is a harsh word, you might not be able to get it back on the side. There's usually a 30-day grace period on the bill.
I think the recommendation might be, let's just not pay it right now and let's revisit this next meeting when we have a better idea what we're doing. Council's inclined to do that.
Let's revisit that.
I think it's something that should be paid for. It's a small community.
Just a little point of information. Check number
14,771, you approved it for payment, and that's the payment for that.
Can we go back and rescind that?
Or should we just lose it with the other lost check that they have?
No, we should rescind that. What's that check number, Peter?
14,771.
Can we make a motion not to pay?
Yes, of course.
14,771? Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion not to pay the bill 14771.
Got a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I was gonna say, no, just some different.
One last thing, and this is a big one. There was a fellow that came in here from a generator company about this 20K generator. He called up UGI, and the gas company told him that the lines are too small, we're in an area where you can't hook up a 20K generator at this time. They say we might be on the books for an upgrade, but now it won't work.
because we have 2-inch lines, 2-inch gas lines.
Yep.
We understood.
There's not enough pressure, temperature goes down, you're not gonna have enough to run this generator.
Just, Dan,
And it's gonna be in writing.
why don't we just go out and buy a portable one for now? That's all you need to run the lights and the heating system. Get one that has enough juice to take care of what we need. That way you don't have to use the gas lines.
Council want to think on this to the next meeting?
Yeah, let me think on it, because if you're gonna get a portable, I'd like to, you know, because it may be around for quite a while, this portable.
I want to get a big one.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you do? Who's the committee for that? I'd like to know if you're gonna have a meeting.
Property.
Who's in charge of that?
Henry?
What's that?
Property committee for the generator.
Yeah.
I thought that was public safety. It's property.
Here.
Does that fall in after the roof or before the other stuff they did?
Well, that's your report. Where do you get to your committee report yet? All right, we'll have to set up, well, when we get to committee meetings, we'll set up a committee meeting. List of resolutions, none. List of ordinances, none. Anybody have anything to say, round table?
Well, that electronic thing, you wanna wait for that new business? Yeah, that's probably the new business.
Committee report, finance?
Finance, we met and we reopened the safety deposit box, how to handle it. And we're gonna bring it to council tonight, whether we just wanna spend the 200, or do we wanna at least call the people we know are involved back when it was opened, or we can write them letters. We still have a few months. If the letter process goes out, we'll have enough time to get their responses. If the phone calls can be made, and somebody has the key, fine. Otherwise, we just spend 200 and drill the lock. So we're gonna.
Because we don't know what's in it. Pete, the only person that you could write, can you find out where Tim Foster is? Is he still in the nursing home? He passed away? Well, then you might as well forget about it then. He would be the only one.
He was probably the last one to have it.
It's in the minutes that he was the last person to actually visit that. Safety deposit box. He passed, when did he pass away?
Just before Christmas.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Anything else, finance?
No,
That's it?
you were there. Is there anything else we discussed?
Here's the report. That was it. That was a big issue. We had the treasurer here too.
Well, it's still an issue then, or do we want to drill it, or we just want to forget about it?
We have
questions. And there's questions about this. I'm sorry, you were asking.
No, I was just asking if you looked at, if you saw what the signature card was and who was the last person who signed in.
There was nobody ever signed in, just that they took the safety deposit out. The box was just taken out.
So it was just bought or rented?
Correct.
And
And then how'd that go again? In December of 1 year, they took the safety deposit out. In January the following year, 2 other council persons, manager and council person went up and re-signed.
Yeah, that was Dick Foster. He went in there to see how much a CD was worth. And that was the last report on January of the following year. I'm not sure what year that was right offhand. But that was
So
years ago.
what we're bringing to council tonight is, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna call, write letters, or are we just gonna drill it? So it's up for discussion right now.
I don't think there's anyone else to write or call, because I think Foster was the last one that had access to it.
It's not.
There's probably nothing in it anyways, what you're saying, right?
Hopefully, we still CD it.
We still have to get it off our books.
Right. We have to get it off our books before June.
So if we can, I would like to make the motion to spend the 200, get it drilled, and get it on the table.
I have a second.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Property committee. Henry.
All right, we call the roofer in, he gives us the price for our roof. deteriorating. He said he could patch it, but he wouldn't guarantee it. He gave me a price, but I think we should get a couple more estimates to make it fair. We also had a tree rotted in the back. A couple of them fell down, hit the air conditioning unit. God, it didn't damage it. It's a shame. The unit's 19 years old. Maybe we could have got a new one. Anyway, that tree got to come down, and we got a call with the guy that
Next Monday.
I think we have a lot of other trees on our property that should be trimmed up or cut down the size. We get it really overgrown. The tree on the right side looks dysfunctional. After that, we have the guardrail in the back that we're waiting for a guy to come and finish a price on that. Because we're worried about somebody going over that little wall. Then on top of that, we look at our yard, we got peat moss growing all over the place. That's going to have to come to some kind of a thing this spring of the year. Some of the bushes are overgrown. And we also have the building sinking. Now, we had a place that they had, we found that somebody was going to repoint the brick, but that's not going to stop the foundation corner from sinking even more. Somebody said T&M did a survey on it. I would rather have Barry Isaac come and do another review. He was talking about putting what they call a pier down support for a footer, which you bore down, you pour concrete, tie it in the other footer. But I know they have what they call a pump line, that you pump it in the soil and it dries it like concrete, which should resolve the problem. And then from there, we'd have to have a mason come in, pull the brick off and re-brick it up. Instead of, because the gaps are really big on the windows. And right now, water's getting in. And we also have to look at the gutters. I don't know if that's where the down comes into the ground, if it's leaking there or not, which might have caused that corner from sinking. All right, so we have a lot of stuff that has to be done. And then on top of that, the building hasn't been painted since it was built. All right, so that's another problem that's coming into effect. You got to be looking into maybe. So that's why I say to you, we have all this other stuff. I'd love to have the generator, but which is more important? The roof, the trees.
If I can say something, the roof can wait. Is it leaking? Except for the end caps, they're $250 to fix.
The roof is leaking in spots. The shingles are coming up.
It's not leaking. They might be up a little bit, but it's not leaking right now. I mean, I understand what you're saying, we need this done and that done and this done, but I kind of look at this as my home. We need the important stuff first. The roof isn't leaking, the guard, no one's gone over that guardrail. This building's been here since 1991. Where is that guardrail? Out there. No one's gone over that edge in 25 years.
I did.
But now we have to have a, now we have to have a guardrail. The peat moss out, the peat moss growing in the yard, I think that'll get another year. Honestly, some of the stuff, the building sinking, I think, is important if it's going to be.
Well, I understand what you're coming from, but the point of it is, the guy that went up there and looked was a certified roofer, and this is what he said to me. He says, I could patch it for you for $250. Won't like the color of the shingles, but you asked me if I'll guarantee it. He said, no, I walked it. The stones are already coming off your shingles. And a curl. So he says, good windstorm, lift it up. You do what you want. But once you get water damage in, it ain't like it's, wow. It's whatever the price for the shingles are. Now you got the damage inside. Seal.
We don't have any damage inside yet. You're saying we could have it.
Okay.
We haven't even started with the leak yet.
Maybe if we had done that with our dump truck, we could have fixed it sooner. I mean,
Matt, that's what maintenance, that's what we're talking about maintenance. You're not gonna wait till you get a leak.
No, I'm talking about a budget now.
All right,
We're running through money. We gotta.
I know we are. Let me make one thing clear. This was built in 1990. So that roof is what, 26 years old? Back in 1990, they sold 25-year, 30-year shingles. They could be 25 years or 30, or somewhere between. And if a roofer comes in, and we'll get a couple more estimates, or prices, and opinions, if they say that the stones are off the shingles, and the roof is gonna, and you're gonna wait till you get a leak, that's not gonna happen.
I'm not saying you gotta do it, I'm just saying, these are priorities that
Well,
we're,
it sounds like we wanna jump in all this stuff at one time.
no, I'm just saying, you're telling me,
Dan's
listen,
worried about a 50-cent postage stamp,
Listen.
but we can spend tens of thousands of dollars.
I'm saying to you,
What's
I'm
necessary?
saying to you, you want a generator, fine, then, or you want a roof.
Well, wait a minute, we haven't lost electricity since 2012. Now we have to wait until we get another one, don't we?
So, I mean, that's your option, you gotta set your program up, what do you wanna take care of? What do you
I'm
wanna
just,
take care of?
I'm
That's
just
all.
pointing out you're
Yeah.
putting an awful lot of stuff on the
I'm
table.
not saying to do it, I didn't say let's go for some of the thing, I say shoot good estimates to find out, and then from there make a choice. You can tell the guys, don't fix the roof, do it, you know.
For what I'm hearing, you need a motion to cut the tree down, right? Do I have a motion to?
Yeah, but I don't get in trouble.
Which tree? One tree?
One
One
tree.
tree.
Because he was talking about all the.
One tree that the branch fell on, one of the 20-year-old.
Let them go, I don't care. I don't live here.
Do I have a motion to cut the tree down in the back by the air conditioners? That fell on the air
That was
conditioners.
some of the trees I planted, free of charge.
Aren't they under guarantee?
After,
Do I have a motion to cut that
they
tree
were,
down?
they were good.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
They were all Norway maples. I
All
did.
in favor of cutting the tree down?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Well, I'm pretty fast.
There it
He's
is.
scheduled for Monday to take that tree down.
What did we just vote on?
Cutting a
Have
tree
you
down.
decided? Was it just a decision after decision?
The one tree that the limb fell and.
Air conditioner.
Listen,
I said it 3 times, you want it back to.
even the squirrel moved out of the tree.
So we have a motion to cut that tree down and it passed. No, nobody was opposed to it.
Hank,
Your roof?
I did tell him to give us an estimate on cutting back the rest of the tree, just an estimate.
Okay, and then we have someone coming in, was anybody here today to look at the roof, Dave?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so we have somebody else coming in to look at the roof to see what kind of condition it's in. And that's the property committee. Public safety, no report. We have one person interested in block watch, that's good. Legal committee, LNC.
Well, you already heard about the computers in the office. Newsletter, the first one was posted up on the website. And the website, I've expanded a little bit. In fact, I put some stuff up there today, I'll back it up. Follow thing for the public works. It's starting to fill up. I still need information from some of you council members that didn't get my background information. Other than that, we went through most of it tonight. Nothing to report.
Utilities,
I have nothing at this time, yeah.
recreation.
Yeah, I don't know the key to get in the building here. They wanna have the T-ball down here, and I can't meet them. No key to get in the door.
Have to come down and see Dave.
Nobody even told me to change the locks on the door, front door.
Well, that's all right, they gave me a key before, never put my code in, that would've been nice, I would've come in and the alarms would run off, that would've been real funny.
When you meet with the T-ball, does the whole committee go?
Yeah, home,
Like you did in the door?
No, he gets a key if he asks Dave.
Yeah, so just,
Ask for your
well,
KVD.
you ask for your key, he'll give your key and code. But until then, if you have to meet,
yeah,
since I'm on the same committee,
yeah, because they're gonna bring down, I told them bring their same contract to down from last year, we'll look at it.
Grant committee?
No harmless contract. What night's a good for it? How Saturday morning?
Saturday morning, 3.
Saturday. Yeah, I'll find out for him, make sure you can make it.
Have any unfinished business, Hank? Hank, you have any unfinished business?
I gotta go, I'm an old man.
center. The lady down here that does hair, they all ordered signs, and Dan was supposed to put them in, I don't know.
He was up there working on it today, I heard.
Yeah.
Jerry Blake this afternoon for the signs.
Oh, did they? And they asked, everybody asked if the signs come in. Doug's on Fifth, they ordered a sign. They were wondering if they got them yet.
Yeah.
So you'll send the bills out to those?
Yes, they were just delivered today, so.
Okay. Doug's and, I think
George Johnson.
George Johnson.
Yeah, unfinished business, I mentioned again the other week, you said you were gonna check, or someone was with, Bill Bulgari about marking the fire hydrants, ordering, getting stuff on the fire hydrants, so we know where they are, like for storms.
Dave, send Bill, the fire chief, a letter on that. I don't think that was done, was it?
No.
We'll send him a letter, sorry about
Thank
that.
you. That's all right.
Any unfinished business?
I was gonna, either that or under what used to be committee, the council voted to reopen the budget back in January. Nobody's voted to close the budget since it's never been.
Well, this is a question for Northampton County. They put out the taxes, and we brought this up at the Country Institute when we had that summit conference. The county, Northampton County, sent out the tax bills before February 15th. Actually, they sent out the tax bills in January. And I asked the people from the state, and they couldn't believe it, because their counties, where they were from, hadn't sent out the tax bills yet. So we have to make the county aware that on even years, they should not do anything till after February 15th, because the boroughs have a right to reopen the budget. And that has to be addressed with the county. We can move numbers around, but if we wanted to reduce taxes or raise taxes, we couldn't do it. So,
Well, the borough tax collector has her hours scheduled, had her hours scheduled already, that beginning the first week of February, she was going to be here, so.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's out of sync here for the even number of years. And the county should be aware of that. Liz should be aware of it. And we'll try to straighten that out. Maybe somebody can meet with the county executive tomorrow night.
I just have one thing to do.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the projected budget for 2016. The building repairs, you only budgeted $10,000.
I know. I brought that up at the last meeting.
So I mean, I think if we're doing a roof, maybe next year, or shift some money around.
You would have to, because it's like moving chairs around the Titanic here a little bit. And what you're saying, Pete, is let's say if the roof leaked next month, that line item would have to be raised anyway, and you can do that during the year.
You can, but you could also patch it for $250.
Yeah. Any other unfinished business? New business?
Yeah, I have something right here. At that PSAB meeting, one nice thing is to get to talk to other boroughs. Academy Borough is having a electronics recycling day, April 16th. I called up, her name is Deanne Workheiser. She's the secretary up there. And it turns out it isn't just Academy. There's 7 other municipalities that are now joining Academy as kind of a multi-borough recycling effort, because it just becomes cheaper. I guess it's real expensive now to get rid of this stuff. Right now there's 7, we would be 8, and I think she mentioned another borough would be 9, and she still got people calling. It could become a county thing if John Brown, you could talk to him tomorrow about that. So anyway, I think right now she's looking at about, where was it? I think it's $3,500 if they go with one outfit that does the entire event, and they'll bring as many trucks as they need. They provide personnel to unload the cars. She has 2 options. She's probably going to go with this one. And they provide traffic control. $3,500. So that would be divided among all the communities that want to share the cost. Now, there are some things, and I'll put this up on the website, by the way. There's a little flyer she gave us. Some of the stuff isn't free, like TVs. TVs aren't free, CRT monitors, air conditioners, but things like that, exercise equipment, DVD players, battery backups, washers, dryers, those all look to be free. There's a whole list here. And we don't have to, I don't think we have to decide this tonight, but it's something to look at. Everybody's got a copy. It may be worth sharing with Academy and the rest of the communities.
We should make up some flyers and put them out in the lobby.
Well, if we decide to do it, because we're going to have to contact
What was the share cost?
It's probably going to be with a rebate that we're getting back from the county. It looks to be, I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it now. Let's see. She says, I'm in touch with John Lundstedt from PADEP regarding possible grant money that could be used to help fund up to 50% of the eligible cost. But she doesn't know what she's getting back.
So as it stands now, it's 3,500 and 9 boroughs, that's 400 each.
Yeah.
Where's that going to be located?
I thought there was a cost in there of $70 and 72 cents.
That was her first, you're looking at the first email she sent in. She thought it was going to be $70, which means they had to go with somebody else. It turns out it's not 70. She made a correction.
Give everybody back.
This recycling day is going to be April 16th, 9 to 12 at the Nazareth Intermediate School.
They were well attended because I can remember what Fort Township had out there in that second shopping center, that lower one. I mean, they were back up on Sullivan Trail all over the place. Pickup trucks full of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we might even offer, rather than have every resident go up to the Academy, you might even want to use our big truck, load up here and take a whole truck up there. I don't know how much you're going to get out of this.
You want to make a decision at the next meeting? Get
Yeah,
more information?
Sure, we got a couple of weeks for it.
Okay, March 14th. Any other new business? Any other new business? Before we go to executive session, there's a question out in the audience. Bonnie, you had a question before we go into executive session?
It's Betty Jo.
Betty Jo, I mean. I don't know why I said it.
You always do.
I know.
Yes, I have a question. You were talking about bonding.
Right.
Now, essentially, you're saying that everybody that handles money or has anything to do with money going in or out of here would be bonded.
Right.
So, what you're saying is the whole council would be bonded?
No, the rest of the council doesn't touch money. Generally, when money comes in,
No, they don't touch it, but they vote on where it
it's
goes.
totally different. Those are two separate
Okay.
things. The bonding is essentially like an employee theft policy.
Exactly.
So if it's somebody is voting, they're doing it in their official capacity. And that may be a good decision or a bad decision or otherwise. That's totally separate from the bonding requirement. The
Okay.
bonding is when somebody goes into the bank and writes a check out, like I write a check out to me, and
Okay.
run away with it. The only people who are authorized to do that are the people who would touch the money, which would be, no offense, Nate, but it would be staff who actually physically touch it. Or the people who sign the checks, who are authorized signers, like somebody would write a check to themselves. That's who you bond. So those are two separate things. That's why the recommendation is whoever touches the money gets bonded, not necessarily who votes. In fact, you don't bond the people who vote.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Does that help?
That answers, yeah, that answers one of them. What did you had a question about something?
Anybody else have a last thing to say? All right.
Can I make one
Go ahead.
comment? I am not in favor of council authorizing any legal fees for the mayor. What I went through for the last 5 years cost the borough $50,000, and I might bring a personal surcharge against you and your clerk. So be careful what you ask for.
What did I do?
You cost this borough 50
I didn't
grand
cost them
to block
anything.
minutes.
I didn't cost anything.
8 lawsuits up to Commonwealth Court, and you have the
None
nerve.
of them, only one of them. and it was-
You have the nerve to sit here and ask for legal fees.
I didn't ask
When
for-
you
I asked
spent
for it.
$50,000 in legal fees, and blocked them in minutes.
Listen,
That's all.
listen,
There was restitution.
Be careful what you ask for.
There was
Because-
restitution and I
because-
waived it. I waived restitution
You cost
for
this
you.
borough
I didn't
2
cost
mills.
anything. Council cost this borough.
2 mills. You and your
Trish,
daughter
Trish,
did.
What is it with her?
That's it. She wanted to say something, she said it.
Well, that's the way she always presents herself. And you allow it to happen.
Can you go into executive session?
We're going into executive session?
Yes.
You have to tell the audience what I'm doing.
We covered that.
Excuse me, just wait a minute, please.
Yeah, we're going into executive session for a variety of reasons, several of them being litigation as set forth in my report, with regard to the emergency management coordinator issue, with regard to the issue of the funding for the mailer, with regard to the condemnation issue, and the computer issue. Thank you.
We're on executive session, and
At what time?
we had at 10:15, and we discussed legal matters.
Right, we discussed potential litigation regarding the condemnation, potential other litigation with regard to Kelly Gross, as well as potential litigation with regard to computers. Now, with regard to the condemnation, if the Borough Council would be willing to entertain a motion to pay the outstanding taxes on the property on Ridge Street, which are delinquent county taxes of $1,973.94, 2016 county taxes of $206, and 2016 West Easton Borough taxes of $198.36.
Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to pay the back taxes on the condemnation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. I should also make note that we had one council member leave during the executive session.
I noted that.
Thomas Nolan.
Yes.
And then I believe that Henry Nolan did not vote on the condemnation, correct? You did not vote on the condemnation.
You did not vote on the condemnation.
No.
What'd you do, abstain?
Abstain.
You gotta fill out the paper out again?
No, but he doesn't have to write this in the letter by the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Write a letter of abstain, I'll sign it.
next for the
Call
condemnation.
my wife, if she doesn't do the job, sign my name when I do.
For the condemnation, next, if the Borough Council would entertain a motion to file an amended declaration of taking so it gets signed by the correct individuals, specifically the correct secretary. Somebody wants to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second to that motion that the correct people sign that document for Ridge Street property? And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Next, with regard to outstanding litigation, is there a motion made by a member of Borough Council to allow the tapes, the surveillance tapes, to become public and subject to a right to know request?
Do I have a motion to make them tapes available to the public? Is there a motion? You want to state that again?
Sure. So we're clear, there are some surveillance tapes that are currently part of an investigation by the borough. There was a right to know request made by Mr. Dees, which was rejected and denied by the borough, specifically my office, because of the pending investigation. The Borough Council can make a decision to make those tapes public if they so choose. So if you so choose, that would mean that they would be subject to a right to know request, meaning anybody could ask to see those tapes.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You should not second.
Yeah, that's right. I asked for.
Do I have a second?
I can't, I'm abstaining.
No, these are the surveillance.
No, these are surveillance tapes.
Okay.
Mr. Nolan,
Okay.
he makes a second.
Steve, is he all right with doing that? Okay, because
It's all tapes.
Okay, all right,
All in favor?
just asking.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
No, he can't abstain.
And I should abstain.
You should, and yes, and
One
so
abstain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the record should be clear that Matt
So we have
Yeah,
four yes and one abstain.
I'll write a note for him too.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, start writing, Matt.
Okay. And And I think, unless Borough Council has anything else, I think that's all we addressed and are going to address following the executive session.
If we had no other issues, are still outstanding.
Correct. And you're taking no action right now.
We're not taking any action right now. Any other business? No motion to
I'll
adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?